Hi, guys.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, everyone.
Awesome.
We all made it. It's great. I'm just sending out something on Twitter so people know that we're here.
I can tweet something too. I'll retweet you, I guess. How about?
Great. I just sent it out, so.
Okay. Oh, I gotta go back there. Hold on. How's everybody doing?
Hello. Good.
Good.
How's your quarantine life going?
Diley.
I'm wearing sweatpants.
I'm wearing a sweater of some sort, so the top half of me looks pretty normal.
That's what happened to me too. And I've begun to refer to jeans as hard pants, which doesn't bode well for my future. They just
One of
seem
the best terms I've gotten from Twitter so far.
That's perfect. That is really perfect.
Now you guys can see my Instant Pot in the background.
Yeah.
I should have bought one of those before going into quarantine.
Oh, it's great.
Finally, what it's like.
This is actually the perfect time to not bother with your Instapot because you're at the kit. You know what I mean? Like you can just in a pot.
That's true.
You're there.
You're tethered.
Yeah, you got to be there anyway.
Very true.
It looks like we're having some sort of technical difficulties. This is my first time trying to do a YouTube live stream, so bear with me while I try.
I'm excited about it. It's bold.
Yeah, we're just let's see.
I wish I could help. I don't have any useful knowledge, I'm afraid.
I figured I was just gonna embrace the weirdness of figuring out how to do it on the fly.
Yeah.
Hey, everything is new territory now, right?
So, it's like learning how to run an event for the first time, but like entirely online.
Yeah.
Whole new experience. Let me just add a little something here.
Where is everybody? Which cities are you in?
I'm in San Francisco right now.
Yeah.
I'm in Maine.
Oh, Maine. How's Maine doing?
Yeah, Maine is blustery, and our tiny town got its first case, so we finally fit in. So
welcome aboard.
we have it just as bad. We have one case, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where are you?
I'm in rural New Jersey where it's more like Maine type levels, but Judy's in like closer to New York City where it's more exciting.
We are in like a commuter town that's just outside of New York called South Orange, and it's sort of ghastly right now here because we also were like in suburbia and maybe didn't take it quite as seriously as we should have, as early as we should have. So now everyone's got the message, and the quarantine is super real. But you know, there was still like play dates happening right up until they told us to shelter in place and things like that. So transmission was aggressive in our town, and there are still people going back and forth to work. At this point, less so, but you know, there are some people that just need to keep going back to work. So, and they're in the city. Scary time. Yeah.
I'm in New York City. It's pretty quiet here.
Yeah.
Where in the city are you?
Right next to Grand Central.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're embracing it.
Do you have access to outdoor space?
I have a balcony, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But other than that, not really.
Has there been any like everybody singing or anything? Has any of that happened?
There's clapping sometimes for the healthcare workers at like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But no singing like in Brooklyn.
Yeah. It's a very musical borough, you know.
Yeah.
Totally. Twitter that was like the Empire State Building, but like with like a giant beacon going. Like,
yeah. It's super scary, right?
That's very intense.
Cool. Sort of.
Yeah, maybe cool, maybe terrifying.
Both of those things, yes.
We all look very cozy and happy on screen, at least right now. So that's the point. Thank you all for being here. I think we've sorted out most of the issues here. So Thank you everyone also who's tuning in watching. If you have questions, please leave them in the comment section of the Substack blog, and then we will get to them afterwards. So yeah, I want to briefly introduce everyone who's here. Paulina is from The Profile, which writes long form profiles about people and businesses. Judy and Henry are here from True Hoop. You guys write about NBA basketball, and Clara is here from The Daily Respite, which provides a brief interval of relief, I believe is a term used, to people's inboxes every day. And you actually started during all of this, so I was very much inspired by what's happening. I kind of want to go around the room and just get a little bit of everyone's backstory. I invited all of you to be here for very different but also related reasons, since the theme of what we're talking about right now is writing and making money in the current climate. And so, Paulina, starting with you, you left your job and went full-time on The Profile in the midst of this whole situation. It's extremely brave of you. I think a lot of people in the past couple weeks have kind of felt like, all right, now is not the time to start something new. And you kind of did the opposite of that. So I want to hear a little bit more about just like, what were you thinking and what was your decision-making around that?
To be fair, when I made the decision, the coronavirus was not on my radar. But I've been at Fortune magazine for 5 years. I started The Profile as on the side, as a side hustle thing 3 years ago. And I've been building it up since. And then in January of this year, I decided to experiment with paid. So I added 2 new sections to the existing email. So the existing email has 8 or 9 profile recommendations, and they're typically long form articles. And so the 2 new sections are video and audio recommendations. So that includes podcasts, video interviews, TED Talks, documentaries, etc. And so I started charging in January, and then did that for 3 months. And in March, I finally decided to leave Fortune to pursue this full time. And yeah, it's been going great, actually.
Yeah, it's awesome. Congratulations.
That's great.
Yeah.
Henry and Judy, you guys write about the NBA and basketball, and then the NBA suspended their season a couple of weeks ago. Can you take us a little bit into what was sort of your immediate reaction to that, and what were your internal conversations like?
Just to be clear, I do not write at all. I'm like the operations.
Production.
The writer and journalist and expert is Henry. So why don't you, Henry, introduce yourself?
Because you both say this about each other, that the other person is the expert. So I think you're both the experts.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of topics where Judy is the only person who should talk here. That moment was weird. It felt weird to like, there were all these stories of people losing their jobs or whatever. It just felt like, and we didn't have NBA basketball to discuss. It felt weird to be sending emails asking for money right then. So we really, flying on instinct, decided to make it free for everyone for the moment, get a 30-day subscription for free. And then we also launched an everyday at 11 a.m. Zoom show like this. Both just flying on instinct that like maybe this is what people were going to want in this time. It was really sobering and weird a few days after we started doing that, and I know all of the hiccups of the Zoom show and all of the weird stuff we're trying to figure out about the audio and the clunky transitions and all this stuff. Maybe 3 or 4 days later, my kids were like, "Oh, let's watch this. Like Jimmy Kimmel's doing his show from home on some app. Let's watch it." And I was like, "Oh my God, Jimmy Kimmel's doing exactly the same. Like we're all in the same boat now, right?" And that felt actually kind of amazing. I was like, it really is a level playing field in all of media for these few weeks. And so I don't know, mostly I think we're just trying to be like of service to people, and we'll figure that if we build some bonds, that'll maybe be business advantageous later, maybe not. But for now, it's just a time to, the show we started called Bring It In. It's literally like, that's what we mean.
It feels like everyone's sort of embracing a little bit more like weirdness and just unpolishedness.
Love that. Yeah.
Comforting, since I think it's just because we all collectively don't know what we're doing. So, or at least I don't.
I'll also note that in addition to making subscriptions free to have for 30 days, Henry had this very smart idea of obviously subscribers, paying subscribers would have like access and be aware of the fact that we were making 30 days free. And we wanted them to feel like they are existing, like OG subscribers were getting their money's worth. So we wanted to auto add a month on the end of everyone's existing subscription, just as a like thank you. And I have to give credit to Substack because we emailed them the morning of the 12th with this like, is there an automated way for us to do that? Because I had already investigated that through Stripe, I could manually add 30 days for free. And Jayraj got back to me, Substack's Jayraj got back to me within a couple of hours and we're like, so funny, we have a script for that. Like, bing, it's done.
That was awesome.
Yeah, so we were able to, in rolling out the 30 days free, also let all of our subscribers know that they were getting an additional month just as a thank you and a, you know, a thank you for continuing to be like our OG supporters. So that was, we were really grateful that they were so responsive to the kind of experimental stuff that we wanted to do.
Awesome. Jayraj is definitely the unsung hero of Substack. I think so.
Yeah.
We're singing it.
We're singing it. Yeah, you're right.
Clara, you started your publication from scratch in the middle of everything that was going on. I have to say, like, for me and my colleagues, when we sort of like, what is this newsletter that kind of popped up out of nowhere? And then we were like, who's Clara? And like, as soon as we saw that you are a self-described wool advocate and knitter, I was just like, yes, this is exactly. Of course, the knitting community comes to like save all of us and make us feel happy and comfortable and confident. I don't know if that's stereotyping knitters or not, but like we were like totally thrilled to come across your newsletter. And so yeah, I would love to hear just a little bit more about like how your background informed what you're doing right now, and like what was the decision to want to start a newsletter, and also like how did you see that initial email list so quickly?
Well, it like I feel like I like, okay, kiddos, but I've been writing email newsletters, oh my God, since like 2001, I think, but in different like realms. It was in tech, which wasn't really what I loved, but that's how you pay the bills, right? And then I started an online knitting magazine, and in 2002 I started a forum there, but it's always at the heart of it has been an email. So I'm a firm believer, I'm in love with kind of the intimacy that you have with your readers in that way, at a time when we're all being just overwhelmed with like, so-and-so's going live, so-and-so's going live, read me, like it's something coming into your inbox. It's a different, you guys are nodding, right? It's a different level of intimacy. And so I've had a readership, but not in this particular realm. So like the Daily Respite isn't about knitting per se. I just saw that what I needed right now, I was actually like looking around to see if anybody else had it for me, and maybe I'm sure you guys too, it was like something to read first thing in the morning to remind me what day it is. You know, like just to keep us a little tethered. And like many other people, all of my work through the end of this year has been canceled. So I stumbled upon Substack, and like, you guys are a godsend. You make it so elegant to do this. Like I could bring the readers, I could do all that kind of work, but having already tried to manage like newsletter lists and relationships with, you know, credit card processors, and it's just so beautiful. You know what I'm right? It's so graceful. And same thing, this is so kind of up in the air. I started on like the 12th, I think. I didn't want to have an annual option because I don't know what I'm going to be doing a year from now. So I wrote, and very quickly, oh sure, no problem, immediately removed the annual option. So thank you. And so I seeded it. Huh?
Probably also Jayraj, I won't take credit.
I think yes, it probably was. So thank you. But it was like a soft, the first week was just social media, Instagram and Twitter, I think, and Facebook. And that was kind of working out the kinks. And people started writing pretty quickly saying, how can we support you? So I thought, well, I was thinking I'd give it a month and then start, but like, well, so I did paid the next week. And presenting it from the standpoint of you asked how you could help, because like in the realm of just what you were saying about True Hope, it seems a little greedy to be like, give us money, like we want to serve you, now give us money. But people want to express their gratitude, and like how can it just it works out in a really graceful way, I guess. I went down a long rabbit hole there. Sorry.
Oh, perfect. That's exactly what I'm here. I wanted to pose a question to all of you about just sort of like how you've been rethinking your editorial strategy. We've definitely heard from other writers that they're not really sure whether they want to continue writing what they were writing before. Do they lean into the times and lean into the conversation? Some people are making this like very determined point to not write about the pandemic at all. I think all of you have sort of like adapted or are sort of writing about it in indirect ways. So like, how are you thinking about your editorial strategy right now?
I can start. So I started last week. I interviewed 7 different small business owners about how the shutdown is affecting their businesses. And I did it in as told to style because I wanted to preserve their voice and not make it like a very clinical interview that we've seen all over the place. And those actually, I think, resonated with a lot of people because you got to hear from the people who are dealing with this at the current moment. And to me, yes, it's about COVID. Yes, it's about what's going on right now, but it's kind of like a snapshot in time that this thing is so dynamic, it's going to change in a month. So my instinct is do journalism. Like this is a monumental time that we're probably never going to experience again, hopefully in our lifetimes. So documenting history is what I do. So I thought that that was an interesting way to do it. In terms of the profiles that I curate in the newsletter, I kind of want, it comes out on Sunday mornings. So I don't want people to be like, oh my God, I'm only reading about coronavirus. So yes, there are some profiles on people who are, let's say, doctors or people who are dealing with this. They are really well done, but I also try to include a profile on Rihanna, for example, that has nothing to do with coronavirus to give people a mental break.
So,
Good.
Tyson, who's also a calming figure in her mind. So.
Let me jump in here. We've been like 20 years True Hoop. The word has been like sort of, the truth has a reputation. It goes with the word bitter, right? It's a little like tougher to swallow. It's not the fun party vibe. The truth always, right? We've been in that lane for a long time. Sports journalism itself is very traditional and has like the game story and the column, and we've never really fit that. I feel honestly a little bit like I was born for this moment. I feel like all this stuff that's what's really mattering now is all we have to focus on, right? The stuff that like this person wants to be presented this way or whatever, it's like, no, we can't do that this week, right? Like the stuff that usually dominates the sports conversation just doesn't matter anymore. And now it's really like, I mean, we've been pretty big on like this convalescent serum therapy that's showing promising results in experiments, right? Like the NBA's sort of wrecked into that issue, and here we are talking about it a lot. So I had a funny, we're gonna have a guest on next week who is sort of in the middle of a controversial story, and I was talking to him yesterday, and basically the topic that he really wants to talk about is this basketball shooting game he's been doing with his daughters in the driveway, and they play a certain Michael Jackson song. It's how many shots you can make, and they time that song, and I was like, I feel like that's exactly what we need from him right now. Like, I don't like, it just feels like, don't you guys all want that, right? Like you want the version of like, he's delighting his 3 daughters with this game they're playing in the driveway. Like, I don't know, that feels real and meaningful right now, as opposed to what would normally be the best story or whatever. So I feel like we're trying to find really real, there's also been some, it's pretty tough on, I don't know, Mark Cuban, sort of the Dallas Mavericks owner, is emerging as like, I can see him positioning himself as like, maybe I'll get a presidential candidacy out of this, or a big appointment. He's trying to sort of position himself. He's going on CNBC, and I'm like, I've known this guy for a long time. Like, no, like, he is not a presidential candidate. like, let's be very clear. He is not someone who, he's doing a talk, I think tomorrow on like, leadership in times of pandemic. I'm like, what a joke, right? So like, there's also, we wrote a whole thing a week ago about like, let me tell you about Mark Cuban. So I feel like there's some real journalism that's sort of more hard hitting kind of stuff that's appropriate now too. But I don't know. That's a long rambling answer to your question, maybe.
We had this moment in True Hoop when we were concerned about whether or not the season would continue, and it obviously didn't. And we weren't sure exactly what would happen, except then the sort of lead story in that moment was that Rudy Gobert tested positive for coronavirus. And literally there was a moment where a game was about to get started, and like a hero, was it the doctor, Henry?
It was the other. So Rudy Gobert plays for the Jazz, and they're literally the referee's holding the ball and is about to throw it in the air, and they're playing against the Thunder, and the Thunder's medical director catches wind of this, and you can see him on video sprint across the court and go to the referees and be like, "Stop! We can't play this game!" Right?
And that the NBA was kind of the leader in the sort of act amongst these like corporate giants of shutting down things that were going to, cost them hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions. So it just made sense for us to cover things like that, because True Hoop has always covered the NBA in a way that's a little different than everyone else. We investigate the billionaires that are buying stakes in these companies. We are talking about the politics of NBA as much as we are the actual gameplay. So it made absolute sense that we kind of, Henry and David were writing these things that like became sort of the kind of the thought leader pieces in the area, in the arena. So I was really proud. Once we saw how it was unfurling, it made a lot of sense, the kind of stuff that we would be writing about. And also, I will note that like Henry's a mega nerd, and so he knows a bunch of mega nerd, brilliant scientists and researchers, and they're all just sitting around, right? And they've written these amazing books like Culture Code or Range, and they're dying to talk about it. And now is the moment to talk about like how to cope with stress, how to be a really good leader, like what are the qualities of good leadership. And so, again, like I'm the keep the lights on person, but I've been watching all of the Bring It Ins, which happen, every weekday at 11 and 11 Eastern. And it's just been such a joy to see like so many different perspectives that like literally Henry's been talking about these things since I've known him, which was like, I want to say like decades and decades ago. So I think it's a great moment for True Hoop. It ends up being in a like very weird time. I think that True Hoop's offering like a unique perspective, which I'm proud of.
Here's what we're getting: mega nerds and knitters saving the planet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Clara, have you done like how to make a really cute face mask?
Oh.
No, I haven't. Yeah, I've watched all the tutorials. That's right. I should be wearing. No, but right now, actually, there's all this talk. There's a knitted thong pattern, and if you adjust it this way, it works as a face mask. So just saying, and you can add beads to it. Yeah, you're welcome.
Too hot for Zoom.
Take away this conversation.
That's right. Zoom after hours. That's
Yeah.
cool.
The comment section.
I think my only challenge is keeping it on the edge of like not going into the realm of treacle, not doing like little babies singing "You Are My Sunshine" to a puppy. I mean that's because I'm a dark and bitter person, but so keeping the respite kind of this open space there's inspiration, there's a little bit of humor, but there's thoughtfulness, just to like give people one moment to sort of like breathe before we go out into this strange new world of ours. But it's a work in progress.
Nancy does this really well because, I mean, in one sense, it's sort of like this is supposed to be the respite. This is the place where no one is. We're here to not think about those things, but at the same time, we're almost there because of those things. And so everyone just sort of like seeing, I mean, so many people are like commenting on your posts and saying like, this is exactly what I needed. And so it strikes this like right balance of, you're not pretending that what's out there is not happening. And at the same time, we're not overly leaning into these like darker feelings. This is meant to be a place that's kind of
Yeah. Yeah. Like today I did mention, at a time when flour and yeast are scarce, how refreshing to see. And then I basically show somebody made corgi butt bread. So like always trying to find that line, but they're beautiful. They really look like corgi butts, corgi butt
I don't
ones.
want to see this really bad.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna look up my phone.
I'm wondering for like stuff that you either planned to write on your publication, or maybe for Clara, you mentioned like other work had been canceled. I'm sure we all kind of went into the new year having plans for things that we wanted to write. And so there are things we can write about now that are kind of more related to the times, but like, what are you doing with all those? Yes, corgi butts. Always
Right?
a bit of levity in the middle of serious conversation.
Sorry.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, what are you doing with like all your old like writing ideas, drafts? Are you sort of just like putting it in a corner for now and saying we'll pick it up later? Are you trying to work little parts of that into your writing?
For me, it's like I have like a thing where I plan content for weeks in advance. Obviously, you have to be nimble and change. So right now, like I've had a piece that I've wanted to publish for 3 weeks now, but I've had to push it back just because of all the stuff that's going on and all the stuff I want to talk about with coronavirus first. But I think, like, for example, I had a lot of plans to do dinners and events and things like that, but all of that is being adapted to this new virtual world. So I think next week I'm going to do like a live event or an interview where I interview someone like an ER doctor who's also an investor, and I'll have people tune in and ask questions. And I think everybody's doing that, right? Like I think the best thing about Substack is the ability to be flexible and the ability to email you guys and say, hey, I need this, like, can you help me? And having somebody who actually listens and does it. So that's, I mean, like it's so helpful to someone who's a writer who doesn't have the technological abilities to do some of this stuff, because we want to think about the content. We don't necessarily want to think about the tech help that I need all the time.
That is our job. Well, not my job, someone else's job.
Yeah, we have a lot of big content dreams and plans, and a lot of them are just, you know, how the hell are we gonna do that right now? And some of them are just tonally inappropriate, I think. I'm trying to think of a good example, but funnily, I do think that a lot of, so like our big thing we've been working on is launching what I'm calling a fancy podcast. So not just like two people talking, but like one that's produced like This American Lifestyle or whatever. And we've put thousands of hours into this and have not launched it. And it's difficult to see how we'll have the time to do that right now. There's been pressure the whole time. People are like, oh, well, just make a cheap podcast, right? Like just interview people. And I'm like, there's sports is full of those, and I don't feel like we need more of them. And probably I just don't want to make another one. However, we basically just did, right? Like we're posting these interviews we do every day. There's an audio file, and well, actually, no. At first, there wasn't. Like we just published it as video, and literally, maybe day 4, someone's like, "Could you guys just make an audio file?" And Judy's like, "Yeah, I can do that, no problem." And then we're like, a few days after that, we're like, "Oh my god, we launched a podcast!"
Accidental podcast.
Like, oh, you guys told us you weren't making one yet. You weren't done. Like, but it seems like you guys have this content now. That's great. And we were like,
yeah.
Oh, I guess, yep. Guess
Yeah.
that.
I've been in meetings with like podcast production companies that are basically like, okay, we hear you about the expensive one, but can you just also show the ability to make a cheap one? And I'm like, I don't know. And then like, yeah, hell yeah, an hour a day, every day, let's go. Like now that's my new position. So like, so I don't know. We'll see how it all goes. We also had we had a meeting with YouTube about, you know, making recurring YouTube content. Well, Judy had me with YouTube, and we were like, I don't know if we can commit to that. And like a weekend, we're like, oh, we're doing that too. So, you know, it feels a little bit, to be honest, the thing that have been feeling most like, makes me feel most warm and fuzzy these days is gardening. I'm a gardener, and like it's that season. I'm just loving gardening. I'm like, I hope I can weed more today, which is a weird thing for me to think. But this feels like gardening. I'm like, let's see what grows, right? Like we're planting a bunch of stuff, and it won't all come up, but I think some of it will. And so just trying to quickly pivot to whatever has green shoots. Is that a strategy? That's what we're doing.
I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just appreciating that.
I was gonna say, like, I think that we didn't even have time to like contemplate the pivot. Like, we had all these plans. The one that was big for me was events. Like, we had our like immediate thing. We were growing to include events. We were talking to a bunch of other entities that were interested in like partnering with us, and we were all really excited about it. And just as we were starting to like pull the trigger on some of our main planning things, we had to shut everything down. And it all happened so quickly that I think, you know, the whole the term nimble really had like new meaning for us. We just like, I don't think I've even like spent a minute thinking about what just happened, you know, like I'd get whiplash if I did. Like, there's just so many plans that we were like, we're just not gonna think about that anymore. That just doesn't exist in this world.
Judy's the only competent person who works here, and she has 2 little children that she's like little children that she's like full-time schooling. So like while trading off with her husband with like this, that, so like she has no free time, and we're just like, everything's just like, this is the new plan, go! Like, you know, we gotta like make it work at weird hours. We barely have time to talk to each other. This is our meeting of the week right now. Like hi, how's it going? But so it's no joke. Like, it's like been a little breakneck, and somehow it works. She also learns how to make, like, when we're doing our Zoom meetings, like she just makes it work. Like, I don't really know how to use it, but it's so amazing. Judy's just, you know, someone can't tell whatever. It's
Coach Judy to like figure out how to run these things next time.
best.
Sort of terrifying to me. I feel like really competent at Zoom because I've done a lot of practice runs and everything. And so whenever we're onboarding a new guest, I have to like baby walk them through everything. And I have like my whole thing, my checklist. I know how to describe, like, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you see this thing and it toggles up. And at one point we were doing a really fun hoop where we had a chef who was
This is so silly. Yeah.
Henry's kids to cook. And without letting me know in advance, he was like, Molly, can you get on really quick? And I had sent her nothing or anything. And I was like, oh no. And so in behind the scenes, I'm like trying to text Molly, his daughter, and like showing her like how to log on. And she's like, I've been on for 5 minutes already. And I was like, oh. And we're already in the matrix. You don't even know you know how to use all of this. So I feel pretty confident and competent until I hang out with a teenager for 5 minutes. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm
I keep thinking like a 13-year-old probably knows how to do this thing and I can't figure out how to do this.
Yes, yes.
That's gonna be the rest of our lives. That's just how it's going. Yeah.
The world belongs to them now. We're just spraying the WD-40 on the door jamb to keep it from squeaking.
None of those words make sense to them.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're right. Oh my God. That's right. Is there an app for making your door not squeak? I don't know.
Probably.
I'm trying to think if I had anything. I guess I'm totally with you on the gardening metaphor, especially
right on. Yeah.
That it is exciting every day, like multiple times a day, to check up on the garden and just see like what happened, who commented, what did they say? Oh, how many more subscribers do we get? Like, wow. And watching it grow in real time and like taking in new ideas and trying to figure out how they could work. It's a neat, I mean, it's not a neat time, but it's a rare moment to be able to kind of play in a free way in this space, where previously there would have been a lot more barriers, just like you said, like, we're not going to do a podcast unless it's professional. Oh, I guess we're doing one. So it's kind of like, you know what? Try it. Let's just see, like, follow the wave and see where it goes. So
are you getting useful stuff from reading your comments and receiving emails? Like, is that content for you?
It's content, I'd say maybe 10% of the content. A lot of it does, like, some of it is like somebody reading a poem that makes me want to slash my wrist. So like, no. Or it's the baby singing "You Are My Sunshine." Like, but more it's just like sweet things like, you know, I'm in quarantine in New York and my mom's in Florida and we share your newsletter, and it's a way that we keep in touch every morning. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll keep doing it. Just trying to serve that as well as I can. And so the only thing I've added, thanks to Substack, is a Friday afternoon gathering. It's just like an hour if you want to, no big pressure, but let's just come, and I throw out a question. So like this week, it's going to be something around the realm of like, what has helped you this week stay grounded? And then last week it was, what are you grateful for? And just kind of that healing feeling of reading person after person after person and seeing yourself in some of what they say. So those are my two things that I'm doing. Anyway, up to you.
I'm wondering about everyone's pricing strategy right now, since you all kind of took it in different directions. I think I'm like particularly curious to kick it off with Polina, because I think so many writers are like afraid of asking for money right now, or feel like it's not right to ask for money. And you're saying this is like worth something that's valuable, and you're like going for it. And yeah, sort of like, what was your decision making around that? How did you set your price? You've had a paid newsletter already, but thinking about it going full time, it's sort of like a different kind of mindset. And similarly from everyone else, everyone has a different pricing strategy right now. So curious to hear from everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And making it free for this period is definitely something to think about. I think that's a really great idea, and the fact that you can do it like technically is awesome. When I started doing paid in the beginning, it's really interesting because I had to kind of train myself to think like content has value. Like, you are saving people time, you're providing some sort of value. And I think reporters for a very long time have been trained to think like, we're just giving it out for free unless it's like in the magazine and it's worth something. And that was the biggest hurdle I had to overcome just mentally. When I launched the paywall mid-January, it was $10 a month and $100 a year. And I was like, there's absolutely not a single person in the world who will find value in this to pay for it. And I was shocked that they did. There were a number of people who said, I'm glad you're starting to charge for this, because I would pay even without the added sections. I think this provides me value already. That was really, really nice. But my whole strategy was, I want to provide as much value as I can for this paid tier, while also providing value for the people who aren't paying. That's always been kind of my idea. So with the paid tier, you not only get the audio and video recommendations, I also started doing a weekly deep dive into a prominent individual every Wednesday. So it'll be like, for example, 2 weeks ago, I did one on Annie Duke, but the way I do it is I like figure out an idea I want to research. So right now it's uncertainty, and how do you stay confident in times of chaos? I start with that idea, and then I'm like, who is the best person to embody that, and who's done things that show you, like teach you lessons about how to deal with this. And it's Annie Duke, who's a top poker player who talks about decision making when you don't know what the future holds. So all of those things, it's like brain food. My whole thought is that right now, in this period of time, we're all at home, we all have so much time. Are you going to choose to put trashy TV into your brain, or are you going to choose the route of, I'm actually going to learn something, and I'm going to, learn a new skill or learn about a concept I didn't know before? You can do both, as do I. I also watch Tiger King. But I just love the idea. Like, Claire, what you said is right how I'm thinking about it. It's like, people want to support you. I just left a full-time job, right? So it's like, why not give people a way to support you? I don't think there's any shame in that. Totally. And it was $100 a year, but I dropped the price to $50 because I got a lot of feedback that was like, I think 100 is too pricey, and like, I've given this and this, like, I think you should lower it. So I did, and it's been working out.
I love Annie Duke. I have the book right here. So
that's awesome.
Brilliant. Yeah.
It's a great thing to read right now.
It is. Not to get way like the topic, but she has this thing in this book, which I use all the time, where she was like, we'll argue a lot less if you express your point of view in percentages, right? So like, I'm 60% sure this is right, right? It works on our psychology in a certain way. And like, I don't know, ever since wherever this came out, I'm like, I've been dying. It's amazing. It totally keeps
It's
you
awesome.
from these, like, I think we should do this or that. If like, I'm 70% sure this is good. Like, people take it a lot better. Like, they really do.
Arguments really die down. It's like, are you 30% sure or 70% sure?
Yeah. There's some story in there about like these two doctors were like going to war over a treatment course for some patient, and finally they were like both agreed they were 51% sure, and then they just stopped arguing. Like they were like they're basically in the same place, right? Our pricing strategy, I don't know. Like, I guess we're approaching a pricing strategy, right? We're doing things now that will hopefully inspire a feeling, which will make our reintroducing of the paywall a tremendous, glorious success. We were exactly like you, basically $100 a year, $10 a month, with frequent $50, frequent 50% off, like opportunities. So I think the time is a little early now, probably, but I'm guessing in a few weeks we'll be talking about the bending of the curve, and then we'll be talking about bringing the paywall back. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
Wait, can I ask how you're thinking about bringing the wall back? Because I love the idea of pausing it. What I'm not clear about is like, how do you reintroduce it? When do you decide like coronavirus is gone, we're going to reintroduce it? What is the psychology there?
I don't know. I mean, I think it needs to feel like there's going to be an economy functioning to me. Like, I think we'd be fine. I think we could probably have left it up the whole time, and that's fine. I think it's more like, it doesn't cost us very much to give everybody a 30-day subscription, and maybe it's a welcoming signal, right? I don't yet. I mean, this frustrates my co-founder Judy at times, but like a lot of times I think like I'm gonna be on a run at some point in the next month, and I think I'll probably have an idea about how to phrase this email while we're bringing the paywall back, right?
Yeah.
Right now I don't know, but I imagine there's probably like a little bit of like there'll be some signal, I guess. Does that make sense? Is that too crazy?
Yeah.
It's not frustrating at all, Henry. Like, it might have been the first, but like, it works. I don't know. You've got this magic thing where you're like, just like, let me garden for a couple of hours. Back to me, and I don't know. It works. The one thing I wanted to add about the like 30 days strategy is it will paywall them after their 30 days of free. So
okay.
Right. So like it's essentially like a try this for 30 days free in sort of a way. I mean, we could strategically like extend everyone's subscription out, a free subscription out. But what we're doing now is basically like, just join us, come bring it in, and let's hang out for 30 days. And I've run this modeling with JRosh, but the way that it'll happen is they'll get notified that basically it's time to like kind of decide. And it hasn't been a 30-day period yet. So we'll know probably in like a week and a half what our churn is. And I'm imagining that our churn is going to be higher than it normally is, but we have like weirdly low churn to begin with. Like no one leaves basically. So it'll just be an interesting experiment. And so like, we don't have any answers or plans for like what happens next for this strategy, because I think we need to do some learning before we make any decisions. And Henry needs to do some more gardening and running.
I feel like Judy's answer was so much more professional than mine. I had like data and stuff. That's great.
Data, that's the whole thing, right?
Data, who heard of that?
Well, and Claire, you particularly went for like, I mean, you just kind of said, I'm going to make everything free right now. And then if you want to pay, you can. And like people paid.
I'm trusting. And I think the knitting realm is really, really used to everything being free. So like you've got Ravelry with 8 million members, totally free. You can learn how to knit online. That's free. You can get patterns for free. And it's been very frustrating because it's difficult to make a living. And so I that was my kind of challenge. And that's why and also just, I wanted to be of service. So like, I'm going to give you guys this for free. And then after a week, people wanted to help. And I realized kind of what's already been said. I actually feel really fine about charging for what I'm doing. Like in the newsletter that I used to do, I was reviewing stuff and it was once a week and it was really good and it was of value, but I would have had a hard time charging, which I shouldn't admit. But like, I feel really good about this. And I appreciate your recommendation that you go 10% higher than what you were thinking of charging. Because I did that thing of like, oh, $5, that'll be fine. And now I'm listening to you guys like, damn, I should have done 10. But I bumped it up to 6, and that helped cover a lot of the extra costs. So it actually was closer to what I was hoping for. And I'm kind of like Henry, I'm sort of waiting for that magical bluebird to land on my, my dogwood tree and tell me, okay, it's time to wrap it up and move stuff more toward a paywall situation. But I have no idea, because how do you say like, well, no more relief for you, you got to pay? To be the meanest person on earth. So trying to figure that out. Not quite sure yet.
You were free for a long time with the profile, right? And then you added
me. Yeah. I was free for 3 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I genuinely think that if you feel good about that you're genuinely providing value in your product, it is okay to say, I'm going to charge for this. I think I spent 3 years building trust. That's the most important thing. And also, like, I can confidently say, if you open this once a week, you will learn, like, I guarantee you will learn one new piece of information you didn't know before. So that gives me confidence to charge for it.
For sure.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Me neither.
Wait,
There we
Oh,
go.
sorry.
reading it a little bit. Have you all had readers who've reached out to say they can't afford to pay, or maybe on the other side, readers who are reaching out saying they like extra want to pay or they extra want to support you somehow? How are you sort of handling a changing relationship, I'm assuming, with a lot of your readers who are in like different sorts of economic situations?
I've had both. I've had people who say I want to pay more, but I don't think that was an option just yet. I've had somebody who asked if they can pay for a lifetime subscription, which I thought was interesting. And then I've had people who say, I really, really love this, but I just can't afford it right now. Without exception, without a blink, I always give those people a free subscription forever, just because, or a complimentary subscription forever, just because, honestly, if they care so much to write in, anytime, like without exception.
For True Hoop, we work really hard to cultivate individual relationships with our subscribers, and we think of our free sign up people as potential subscribers. So I think just like you, Polina, if someone's spending the time to actually reply, like if they've unsubscribed and they say like, this was great, the content was great, and they give feedback, I always see it as an opportunity to like get to drill in and have a communication with them about like what they liked, what they didn't like. So I always reach out, and if someone just can't afford it, like certainly we figure it out for them. Substack has the actually I use Stripe for this, but you can make like a unique discount code ID so that they can see, and like I'll put their name in it, and I'll say like, this is just for you. You can have this if you'd like. Thank you so much. And I think like the conversations that I've had or the input that I've gotten just from those like email exchanges have been insanely valuable for us in directing like what content they've liked and what they wanted to see. Actually, like everyone was clamoring for a podcast from Henry and David, another True Hoop writer. And so we've inadvertently satisfied an itch for a lot of our subscribers. But yeah, I see it as an opportunity to communicate with them, which is.
Wait, what about the guy who was super grumpy? There's one guy who was super grumpy about it.
Like, I'm an A+ person, right? So like, I am going to charm every single person who emails me every single time, except for this One person who was just not having it. He just wanted to take a dump on something for a week. Kept with my perky, peppy, like, oh, thanks so much. You're so valuable. Thank you so much. Like, blah, blah, blah. And he just like farted all over his email. Okay, well, it doesn't always work out. Thanks for.
You don't get them all.
Yeah. That one I didn't really count as like learning. Yeah, it's just a bummer. So you get those two.
What happened to you, Clara? What happened there?
Everybody froze and I don't know. And then it said upgrade for $4.99 a month. And then it like got me back in here. So sorry I'm in Maine and our internet is like, it's like one donkey walking in a garage around and around. So very sorry about that. I missed something good though. Judy was saying something about feedback.
Sorry about it.
No.
It was great. You missed it.
That's probably the best part of this whole call.
I'm sure repurposing Fogs' space mess is still the best part of this call.
Also,
Go ahead. Clara, thoughts?
I've had people ask, again, this is kind of the knitting world. I had people ask if they can donate, because it's sort of, the knitting world still has this sort of like, talking about money is gross because it's filthy lucre. We're all about hugs and sugar, and I'd like to donate to your cause. And so I'm trying to figure that one out because I don't want this to be a donate charity. This is a product that I'm offering. And then, yeah, I had one person who wanted to pay more, or can I pay through PayPal? And I'm learning, I'm trying to figure it out. It would be neat if there were another, and I think there probably is, where you could like choose what to pay above whatever the minimum is.
We actually just suggested, or we just announced that we'll be unrolling something like that very soon. So.
Oh my God, you guys are so great. All right, we're good.
Wondering for all of you, since you've, I think, all written or produced interesting things in the world under lots of different sorts of revenue models, just sort of like how everything that's been happening in the past couple of weeks, the past month, how it's sort of made you think about my mail is being delivered on the other side of this. How are you thinking about subscription models in particular, and like how that compares to other types of making money from different types of content? Is it giving you more confidence? Are there like upsides or downsides? Just any new considerations that you're thinking about with subscription models?
Interesting. I actually think the world, whether people like it or not, is moving into a subscription world. And I think the coronavirus work from home situation kind of accelerated it. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, for example, I love this one particular profile writer at GQ. I don't read any other GQ content except for her profiles. So why on earth would I subscribe to all of GQ when I can only support her and subscribe to her and only get notifications when she publishes a profile every other month? Like, that is the world I want to live in. And that is like, I genuinely don't think that the new generation coming up is like those teenagers you were talking about. I think the reason they watch their YouTube stars and their TikTok stars and whatever is because they build trust with individuals. They don't build trust with media organizations or any sort of like faceless company. So they would way rather give their money to somebody they know is going directly to them versus like God knows what happens. So I think that that's the world we're moving into, and I'm really excited about it. But I think subscriptions, monthly, yearly, or whatever you want to donate, I think that's the future.
I agree. We're part of this accelerator at the Information, Jessica Lesson's Silicon Valley startup, and they've A/B tested everything, and they're 7 years into the subscription thing, and she's brilliantly convincing that like this is what you want to be doing, right? Like the subscription model is, you don't want to be in the ad model now, right? And in addition to that, I was at lunch, I don't know, before coronavirus. I was at a lunch with this guy who's like an ad strategist, and he was saying that a lot of the ads they've been buying lately just can't deliver, which is a weird, like there's traffic, people are consuming media, but like you're spending $1 million to advertise whatever it is, you know, some software product, and they can't get the number of impressions they promised, right? So it's like, it's not just that people don't like the ad there and don't respond to it like they used to, it's that they just aren't even enough people looking at the ad supported thing anymore. So I think it's probably that the big trend is probably devastating for media, only because GQ employs how many people, right? And most of them probably aren't delivering a lot of value to the audience, right? And that's just the truth, right? If you did subscribe to GQ and look at their ads, you'd be paying for 500 people, let's make it up. But you really want to pay for one, right? So that's 490 people that aren't going to have a job. I don't know how to solve that. But I think that the fact is, like, if you're that one writer at GQ, of course you have to do this.
And Jessica actually was a Wall Street Journal
Yeah.
tech and finance, and she was frustrated with the model that the Washington Post was taking, and she was frustrated about the things that she was able to cover. So she just went out on her own, and she was kind of, you know, the first of the pack of those sort of like marquee profile, high profile investigative writers, journalists who did this. And she's the darling of the tech world right now.
Cool. Let's see, from my side, having published an email newsletter that had sponsors that totally paid for it, but then watched that dry up, and then also watched the kind of the awkward invisible threads that you had with the advertisers, that like, even if you told them you can't influence content, you still like, oh, I really felt those get tighter and tighter. I'm happy to see that go, and I'm happy to see readers support the content instead. Although you have a very good point about putting people out of business. I'm not happy about that. But also as a book author, like they only buy one copy of your book. That's primarily what I do. And so one person, that's $1.15 forever until the next year, as opposed to like being able to have a more constant relationship where like it's not just $1.15 every year, it's more. And if that means that I don't have to travel every month and speak, I can stay at home with my bad internet and my garden. It's a good deal on my side, but yeah, it's evolving, right?
It is. It's a time of change. It is. Like I feel like the way media's been. So I started working at CBS News in the mid 90s, and it was just like, you know, giant budgets for everything, right? And that was the only place you could sell toothpaste, I guess, right? This was like, you know, it was sort of like the world worked that certain way, right? And I feel like a lot of like, I guess the rest of the media world is still sort of just rubbing two sticks together, praying that will continue to exist another week or whatever. But like, it's not going to be like that, right? It's just like, that is not, you can't possibly justify it. And I mean, this was another part of like Jimmy Kimmel broadcasting from home on Zoom or whatever he was doing. I was like, the dude who would clean the lens on the camera that Jimmy Kimmel would be shot through would get a car service car home, right? Like I just can't, like, and meanwhile, if they can make 95% as good a show from his living room on his phone, like, well, we're gonna have to adjust to that. And our kids frankly prefer it that way. I think it feels a lot more like, I think my kids prefer it that way anyway. All the gloss is just an impediment to them.
Completely agree.
Yeah. It just, this is what's going to be. It's going to be this more level playing field thing. And I don't know who's going to win it, but I remember in the early days, I was like, Logan Paul was the champion of the internet. I'm like, oh no, you know, like, this is terrible. But it's getting more nuanced than that. So that's good.
I kind of just want to wrap things up by having everyone go around and just share any sort of advice you might have for other Substack writers and navigating this time. You've all shared lots of great advice so far, but any sort of parting thoughts?
I mean, I'll just reiterate that I think it's the newsletter format is an opportunity to be very intimate with your readers. And so capitalizing on that, and like, you know, we talk about using data evilly, and Henry and I have long conversations about what do you do with the data that Substack is giving you. And, you know, the way that we use it is by making sure that we are keeping track of our subscribers, what they're reading, what they're not reading, being in touch with them, knowing what to encourage, and really just communicating with them. Like, I think it's such a rare thing to have. And I mean, like, I don't want to make Henry blush, but like, I went to law school, and I would, in a sea of laptops, see True Hoop, because True Hoop has been around for like over a decade, just on all the screens. So there's a ton of people who have been following Henry who feel like this is this rare opportunity to be a part of something that he is personally doing. And I think just making them feel like a personal connection is a really big deal. I spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think that for the first time ever, you can everybody has time. So the way you use that time is really, really important. And I think that, for example, I used to do, for the profile, I would do events in New York, but I mean, that's like one fraction of my readers. So like this way I can create an event with people from all over the world who can attend. And I think that there's something really, really valuable there where you're able to bring all these people together, and like the communities that are built right now will be really important in the future.
I want to jump, like I'll add to both of them, or maybe did I jump in front of you, Henry? Were you going to say something?
No, I'm more than happy to bring it home at the end.
Oh yeah, okay. Give me a hand signal when you're ready, and then I'll set it up for you. No, I was just going to say yes, absolutely, to the intimacy of the email, and totally the value of the community, and that especially right now, I think that's what they need, some kind of a constant connection, and not to be afraid to charge for it, because it's like when people want to express their gratitude, I hate that we live in the society where that is how we express it, but that is how people can support you. Yeah, and definitely add 10% to whatever you think you're going to charge. Okay, take it away.
Always in life, add 10%.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
My thing was going to be something I learned at the Substack event in Caveat in New York, which was, I forget who said this now, but basically he was like, you're paying customers, you need to keep the promise you make to them, right? Mm-hmm. So once a week, twice a week, whatever it is. But he was recommending, like, he's like, you're going to find that your value is really delivered like 20, 30, 40 times a year when your work hit some confluence with the events in the world, right? You're not going to have once a week value. You're going to have, a lot of them are going to miss. So he's like, you might want to just promise 40 times a year. And as soon as I heard that, like from the early days of, I was True, but there was only a blog starting in 2005, and there were all these blogs were taking off, and people were making tons of money, and a surprising number of bloggers had heart attacks or like real profound health problems from just overwork because the blog wanted you all the time. And I felt that. I felt like I would sometimes wake up at 3 a.m, be like, oh, I should go like approve comments or whatever. This is the advice portion. I would say, like, just make a promise you can keep for 5 years, right? Like, don't have 6 days a week promises, right? I think you want to set a pace that you really can deliver. And to me, this idea of we're all programmed to think that we'll just deliver more value, but they really want you on those few days of the year that you really stand out, and make them pay for those. And like, I think you can give yourself a weekend, it's okay. Garden, that's the point. Garden.
And don't be afraid to keep it short too. I don't know if you're like, as a writer, isn't there that tendency to like, I must deliver? No, sometimes just brevity is better. So.
Even your mom doesn't want to read the 4,000 word version, right? Like,
no, 30 bucks can go a long way.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you all for being here. This is a really great conversation. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the comment section after.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.